soldiers. If you see any lumps or like weird streaks under my makeup, just know that I've spent the last 2 days covered in eyelash glue, okay? And I'm out of makeup remover. Do you like my shirt? I like my shirt. And if you want to get this, you can go to the link below at College Book Corps because we're like friends now and she sent this to me. So if you want to rep Jude Duarte, you know where to get it from. And I know it's a little dark, but you come to me on this day, the eve before Pride Month, and expect me to have filmed something during the day. I think you need to lower your expectations. May was such a good reading month for me. I read so many things this month that made me yell, that made me cry, that emotionally destroyed me. Also, so many dragons. So many. I don't know what is going on, but there's a dragon trend happening. I blame it on Samantha Shannon, and I am not mad about it. In fact, I love dragons so damn much that it inspired my latest tattoo. So I guess, surprise, tattoo reveal, my dragon shin piece was done by Ali Brooke Art. She's so cool. She did my other shin, so I have matching shins, and it looks freaking great. My dragon with orange blossoms was inspired by one of the books that we have on this list. So I suppose, without further ado, grab a drink, grab a snack, and buckle in while we go over all the books that I read in May. And because I am a benevolent creator, I will not keep you all in suspense. Let us first talk about the book that inspired my dragon tattoo, and that is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is a prequel to Priory that takes place 500 years before and during the grief of ages and the first time that evil arose to take over the world. You know when you start reading a really well-crafted book, and like 3 pages in, you're like, this is gonna be amazing! That's how I felt this entire book. Samantha Shannon has really perfected her craft since Priory. Like, her world building is so much more detailed. Her character development goes so much deeper. We follow Tuva, a priestess who is training the newest generation of recruits to the Priory, who are all questioning their purpose. a-MAY, whose life on a rural mountaintop is shattered when someone from her mother's past comes calling. And 15-year-old Glorian Barathnet, Princess of Innis, must take over when tragedy strikes and she is thrust into being a queen too young and too early. We get to see how the world of Priory is set up, especially with the Red Damsels and the legendary Galore and Shieldheart. It really goes into the strength of power of women, the themes of motherhood in this book, because there are multiple characters who are mothers or were mothers or are forced to become mothers or are expected to be mothers based on, you know, their duty and their loyalty to their kingdom. She also went into religious drama and how dangerous it is to be blindly faithful and follow legacies and worship false saints. Did I take 3 months to finish this book? Yes. But was it worth taking my time? Absolutely. While I was reading this, I was screaming encouragement and getting chills at some of these scenes, and I cried so hard I couldn't breathe at the end of this. Absolutely phenomenal storytelling. I do not regret my tattoo a single bit, and you can bet from this book that Samantha Shannon has permanently earned herself a place on my auto by authors list. Secondly, it was a little fantasy novel that I've seen floating around my circles and I've been eyeing it for a while, so finally for Indie Bookstore Day in April, I picked it up and managed to read it this month before all the ridiculousness about it happened on Twitter, and that is This Is How You Lose the Time War by AModelWho'sRead and Max Gladstone. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my last video. This is a sapphic sci-fi fantasy dystopian time travel mashup that follows 2 characters, Red and Blue, who are agents on opposite sides of futuristic Time Lord companies who have taken over the universe, who, despite being told to assassinate the other, have been slowly falling in love over time and space by leaving each other love letters in strange places. This is beautifully written, and like nothing I've ever read before. Time is not linear, time is a circle, time is a slinky, time is forever infinite in both directions and all around us in 4D. This really goes into just how many small possibilities there are to mess with somebody across time and space. And it was so fun to see all the odd places they were leaving each other in love notes. Like, I think my favorite was in the tree rings. Just, oh my god, that kind of planning is unfathomable. But also goes into the loneliness and longing for somebody throughout time. The ending of this book is so weird that I feel like I both understand all the secrets of the universe and yet absolutely nothing at the same time. And that might be the most perfect paradoxical way to sum up how I feel about this book. It's small, it's sapphic, it's the epitome of rivals to lovers, and it recently went viral on Twitter. For good reason this time. Hooray! We love good reasons! I finally understand the hype about this book and would highly recommend that you pick it up too. Is this influencing? Am I influencing you? This next one's gonna be a bit dramatic, so I feel like I need to take a sip of tea. Let's get into it. Third on this list is one that I love, and I hate that I love, because god damn it, R.F. Kuang freaking did it again. Yellowface, her literary debut, is a freaking banger. Oh, actually, we can have a double feature today. Oh, look at that! I was sent an advance copy by HarperCollins, but then I also went to a book event for this. I got to see her speak in person and I got my book signed! Yellowface follows June, a white author who steals the work of an Asian woman and passes it off as her own, and then the lengths that she will go to keep that under her own name. This goes into the toxicity of social media cancel culture, the performative allyship that many people boast, and offers a raw and unapologetically blunt look into the secrets and discrimination that was within the publishing industry. The main complaints I've seen about this book are like, I couldn't connect with the main character, and it's like, yeah bitch, I fucking hope you don't. June Hayward is awful. This is a white author who is resentful that she is not getting the same opportunities as a person of color, and there is a lot to unpack in that. Seeing her spin the narrative in her head to make herself the victim, and watching her think her way out of these situations by convincing herself that what she is doing is right, was so wild to read. This is a keystone in publishing when we are exposing the systematic prejudices that an industry holds. She's freaking calling everybody out, and I love her for it. Another person who is just unfair that she's so charming and educated and well-spoken and has a fantastic writer's voice and is like super smart and adorable, and I'm just, damn it, R.F. Kuang, leave some for the rest of us, why don't you? This is a provoking read against authenticity and appropriation, and if you want to read a truly morally gray, horrible narrator, yet again, I would highly recommend this book. Okay, now we're gonna switch gears. We're gonna talk about something a little spicier. I was stalking around Kindle Unlimited, as I want to do sometimes, and I stumbled across Theirs for a Night by none other than Katie Robert, and I was like, yeah, I'll give this a shot. Is there a smutty one-shot Katie Robert novel that I'm not willing to read? I haven't found it yet. Meg is a hard-working bartender trying to pay her way through university, and she gets roped in with one of her friends to go clubbing one night, so they go clubbing, and oh hey, there's two really sexy guys who want to take her home, so they do, and they go home and they bang. But then also afterward, oh my god, he's actually a prince of a foreign country. Meg is the epitome of a Mary Sue, yet everybody in this book is like, oh, but she's different. Ooh, girl, she's different. Theo is a bad boy with a heart of gold, and it's like, oh my god, we get it. He's so dreamy, he's so pretty, he's so my type. And Galen, his bodyguard, is a stubborn, loyalty-obsessed Viking man who cannot give a pep talk to save his life, but I do appreciate his sturdiness. I mean, overall, the premise is pretty good, and the sexy times were pretty sexy, if you can get over the, like, yes, yes, his lips were so sinful, blah, blah, blah. But apparently I liked it enough to read the sequel. So, I also read, what is the sequel called? Forever Theirs, surprisingly also by Katie Robert. The sequel picks up like a week or two after the events of the first novella and is basically after Meg leaves them, and then Theo's like actually kind of obsessed with this girl, but then oh my god, there's actually royal politics and people are trying to kill other people and rightful heirs to thrones, but then they have to go into hiding and there's all this like political machinations, and like actually, like, okay, Katie Robert, freaking work, bitch. You pull a plotline out of nothing, and I loved it. There's a surprising amount of, like, friendship and loyalty and, like, the burden of leadership, seeing people for who they truly are, and the sexy times, if possible, got even sexier. And I'm like, oh my god, maybe the monarchy actually is hot. The best way I can describe this sequel is that it's a combination of James Bond meets 50 Shades of Grey, but then near the end, it gets a little, like, Princess Diaries 2. So like, yeah, this was really fun, and if you want something new by Katie Robert to tide you over in between the Dark Olympus books coming out, because what's the fourth one? Radiant Sin came out a couple months ago, and Cruel Seduction doesn't come out till this fall, and I needed a fix. Well, damn, if this video is gonna live up to its name, I better talk about another dragon book, and what do you know, I do in fact have another one to talk about. That was Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. This was sent to me by PRH, and is in fact the adult version of all those dragon portal fantasies that you read when you were a kid. Long ago, dragons and humans lived in harmony, but then a schism came, and humans banished the dragons to a dying world, yet still managed to keep their image in our world world and worship them as gods. And centuries later, we are finding out that the gods do not forgive and they do not forget. Our main character is a non-binary thief named Arcady who steals a magical artifact from a deep dark tomb in hopes of using it to extract revenge on those that ruin their family name. But unknowingly to them, this artifact is tied to Everin, the last male dragon, and manages to pull him through the veil and into Arcady's world. So disguised as a human, Everin learns that to restore dragons to the world that they once were, he needs to get somebody to fall in love with him, bond, and then use that magic to break through the veil to other worlds. I'm a slut for two things in this world: vegan cheesecake and good world building. And oh my god, this had immaculate world building, yet unfortunately no cheesecake. There's so many tiny details, from like the types of coins they have, to the card games, to the aches that one feels when they do magic. And in fact, sometimes if you do too much magic and you don't have something to eat or imbibe to level out the levels of magic, you can turn into a starveling, and which is basically like a maddened zombie creature. There's also a lot of interesting stuff on gender in here, like our main character is non-binary, also L.R. Lamb is non-binary, and everybody in this book is referred to as their, capital T, their, before we get to know what their preferred pronouns are. And there's even like hand gestures that you can use to denote your status. So there's a lot of cool honorifics with different people, and then the dragons have this whole other way of thinking about gender because they're like, we don't need this, why do we care about that? Speaking of dragons, I love how Everin has to adjust to being human, because like he's been in a humanoid body before, but not in this world. So he's like, what is bread and how do I use only 2 legs? The funniest detail in this book is that there are alternative nut milks at a cafe in this world. Like the bounds of fantasy will not stop the gays and their lactose intolerance. My main criticism with this book is actually Arcady, because I felt like the motivations and the plot didn't quite match up. Like, I think we should have stuck more with the university aspect or with the thievery aspect and not tried to mash them. But at the same time, the scheming was top notch and the tension was palpable. I think this book is very good. I think L.R. Lamb is very cool, and I think I will definitely be reading the sequel when it drops. Something else crazy and unexpected and sexy and wild and wonderful and mysterious of me that I did this month. Like, it's not mysterious because I'm telling you right now, but you get it. I gave Second Chance Romance a second chance with Happy Place by Emily Henry. Good lord. God, this is like megawatt Barbie fluorescent, just is obnoxiously pink. Yes, I'm gonna wear sunglasses for this whole review. I have to commit to the bit. Perfect couple Harriet and Wynne called off their engagement 5 months ago, but didn't tell any of their friends, which makes it pretty awkward now that the whole friend group is going to be on their annual vacation in Maine, and it turns out that this is the last year that they will be able to spend at this cottage that they have so many years of memories at. Desperate to not break their friends' hearts and cause extra stress to a couple getting married, they're both lying through their teeth about how much they want the other, while also refusing to acknowledge the trauma that broke them up. But it turns out faking it for a week is harder than either of them expect, and maybe their combined happy place holds some space for second chances at love. Okay, you know what? I was gonna commit to the bit, but oh god, wow. The sunglasses are just a little too distracting. And I swear this is not a backhanded compliment, but both characters of this book are kind of boring and very codependent, but at the same time, the way that Emily Henry writes is just like so seamless and easy to fall into that she gets you invested in regular people. And I think it is these two characters being regular people that really drives home the theme of finding new parts of somebody to fall in love with and like rediscovering why you loved someone, which also balances really nicely with the idea of like you can never go home again because you're always going to be different, and how you can't help but mourn for a time before people changed, yet at the same time it's natural and probably wanted for people to change, and how any relationship you have in your life is inevitably going to change through grief or jobs or time. This whole friend group was so wonderful and wholesome to read, and like I love getting to see how they all became friends and the significance of their happy place. I love Kimmy and Cleo's dynamic. They're so freaking cute together. And Sabrina and Parth are the ultimate power couple that I both love and am slightly afraid of. And the easy flirty banter between Wynne and Harriet, especially after we stop pretending that we actually hate one another, was so good and very funny. For whatever reason, I didn't quite connect with Happy Place the same way I connected with some of her other works, like Book Lovers. Maybe it is kind of obvious. So this wasn't my favorite Emily Henry book, but like, did I still cry? Yes. And finally, the finale to this video is a book I'm sure you've seen many hot takes on. I'm sure you've seen many conflicting opinions, but I will say it has a hot love interest in dragons, so what more could you need? It's Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is one of the reasons I am still covered in eyelash glue. This book is divergent, but with dragons. Changed my mind. This is about a war college for dragon riders where our main character gets pulled out of the scribe quadrant by her general mother to be in the rider quadrant. But Violet has some kind of what I'm assuming is a connective tissue disorder that affects her ability to fight, and that, along with her being the general's daughter, puts her as a major target. And along with making friends, enemies, and consorting with the sexy love interest who's the son of the rebel leader and trying to survive amongst a cohort of dragons, maybe we find out some conspiracies about what's going on outside of the college. I'll admit, at first I thought I wasn't gonna like our main character, because I thought she was gonna be like, oh, I'm so weak and small, boo-hoo. But actually, there's a great discussion in here on chronic illness, chronic pain, disability. During her time becoming a rider, she uses multiple mobility aids, and she is scheming and cunning and finding other ways to win at fights. When I first met Xaden, I was like, oh, he's gonna be this gruff, emotionless bad boy. But like, actually, he is way deeper and more subtly written than I gave him credit for. I haven't dated a man in a really long time, but this man, he might be convincing me to try again. But also Violet is like, ooh, he's so toxic, I shouldn't like toxic men. And I'm like, girly, where is he toxic? Like, he just likes knives. He's like never tried to gaslight you or anything. Where is this coming from? And she's not afraid to call him out on his tough guy bullshit. Like, at one point she's like, are we gonna do this or not? Because I deserve to be with somebody who wants to be with me. So like, let me know when you figure that out. And I was like, oh my god, Violence, you're amazing. And these dragon rider sequences were so cool and action-packed. Like, I felt like I had so much adrenaline going through me while I was reading this that if I had some kind of smartwatch, it would register that I was doing a full-on sprint. And it is spicy, but it also has such good depictions of sexuality and intimacy and like talking through the things that you want and like expectations. Where I think a lot of people, including myself, were a little thrown off is that this is a fantasy novel that uses some modern dialogue, which in a way is really fun, but it does give it a little bit more of a modern tone than I think anyone was expecting. Like, at some point Xaden's like, all the vibes were wrong, and I was like, oh my god, what was that? And yet again, I find myself reading another book about a war college who actively kills off recruits. And I'm like, I need to sit down and talk with you about your business plan, because I understand this whole like weeding out the weak thing, but at the same time, if you want to fight a war, you like need people to fight that war for you. Like, stop trying to kill off all these new people. Now, in my last video, I use this as an example to talk about hype cycles on Book Talk, because the romantasy girlies got their hands on this. It's freaking inescapable. So like, is this book overhyped? Like, yeah, a little. It's not the greatest book I've ever read in my life, but at the same time, I really enjoyed myself, and like, I would recommend it to people. I need a moment to collect myself. And that is that on that. Those were the 8 books that I managed to read in May, and I had a great time. Fourth Wing, Day of Fallen Night, and Happy Place are all having a moment on tiktok.com.edu. I love when my highly anticipated reads turn out to be good, right? It's the best feeling. Please leave down below what you read in May, or if you read any of these as well and want to fangirl. And thank you all for the love I've gotten on my corresponding Instagram pictures with these books, which Instagram's linked down below. It's getting late, my curls are drooping, and I'm pretty sure my neighbor has been outside on their porch this whole time. And they probably can hear me, so let me know if you want to borrow anything. When I post this, Pride Month will start tomorrow, so be on the lookout for a variety of Pride-inspired videos and pictures and TikToks and whatever. I'm really excited for this year, and next week's video may have a little something extra in it, so might want to stick around. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day or night wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!